Howdy, folks, and welcome to What's in the Box. Jeffy sent me a box. I received it today, and we're going to go ahead and see what's in it. I know we're about 30 minutes later than I had originally anticipated. We had some technical difficulties, but that's okay. Reese in the house says a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Very much so. Hissy Cat also agrees. And then he said, must be nap time because we were a little late. So we'll see. Then, of course, I made my comment. We had some technical difficulties. Hexy is not here that I'm aware of, Reese. Devin didn't break anything, but I think you'll like seeing what I've got added here. Todd, there he is. It should be good. And you sure you should do this live? Well, it's either do this live or record it and let it take 8 hours to upload. So I'm gonna go live with it. It just gets the product out to the customer faster. So this is the box. It's the same box that I sent Jeff something in, so he just returned the favor. Let's go ahead and take a quick look and see what we got. Well, the first thing is a surprise. There's a total of 3 things in here. 2 things I knew were coming. But this first one is a surprise. And it is Warriors of Japan, A Country of Flame, 1335 to 1339, MMP, multi-man. So let's go ahead and crack open what I got here. This is actually my first baggy style game. So Peter Bergs is here. This is Curious George here. What do you get? And then Todd says, you and McMurray can play that together. All right. So got a rule book here. Not a very big one. It's including the front and the back, it's 16 pages. So we'll definitely see. Take a look at that. It's kind of a semi-matte finish. The text is decent sized, not too bad. Full color. So, yeah, we'll take a look at this. We'll see what we got. It's got 2 sheets of counters, and those counters are absolutely gargantuan. These have got to be, 3/4 of an inch at least. So, and then here's the other counter sheet. I don't like this light here. Let's do this. There we go. I think that's a little better. All right. So, yeah, I like the artwork. Very nice. We'll see. We'll see what it's all about. Little yellow sheet here. Warriors of Japan International Game Series. We at MMP are dedicated to perfection and customer satisfaction is our #1 goal. Should you have any problems with this product, contact us through any of the following methods so that we may try to correct the problem. Excuse me. Then they've got the telephone number, email, or snail mail address in Millersville, Maryland. Warriors of Japan should contain 1 22 by 34 inch map sheet, 2 counter sheets, 1 rule book. So here is that map sheet. Let's take a look at this sucker. That's That's a nice map. I like it. Single-sided, pretty big. I mean, 22 by 34, so it's almost 2 foot by 3 foot. It'll fit nicely over here on my little ad hoc table here. May even fit on just the regular piece here. Maybe not. Maybe not. So I like the map. It is very much designed to be looking of the period. So it's not an exact, it's not an exacting map, but that's okay. I like the artistic choice. So yeah, we'll see this on the channel. Sure, why not? We'll see it. I got to get through a couple of more phases of U.S. Civil War though. It's all good. I'm enjoying it. So there is the first item. Second item is Heroes of the Nam Lock and Load Tactical System companion book that is spiral bound. I think he picked this up during the Thanksgiving sale, the Black Friday sale that Lock and Load had. So, and of course, the baggies are difficult to get the product out of. There we go. As per usual, nice big font, full color. It's good for the old eyes. And what this does is gives you additional rules specifically for Heroes of the Nam. It looks like just a crap ton of additional, or maybe not additional, but just a crap ton of scenarios. So that's good. It'll go with my Heroes of the Nam game right here. For those who haven't seen recently, I've got a pretty good start on. I got a pretty good start on my board game collection here. I've got a place for everything. So let's pull out the Heroes of the Nam box. And yeah, so it looks like it's the same book. But it's been wire bound. So it fits in the box. All right. Get this back up here. And then the plastic baggie goes to the wife. She likes these little project bags for her sewing and whatnot. Then the last thing in the box, Tank on Tank West Front. So David Heath over at Lock and Load was nice enough to send a goodie box to both Jeffy over at Hex to Hex and to me. And he knows that I'm more of a West Front kind of guy. He knows that Jeffy's more of an East Front kind of guy. So what does he do on purpose? He sends me the East Front version and sends Jeffy the West Front version. Well, we decided to just trade out. So I sent this off to Jeffy, the East Front, last week, and he returned the favor, sending me West Front. I'm going to go ahead and open it now. I've been wanting to see what's in this since we received it, but I held off. I didn't open it up just for Jeff. So here we go. Get my little slicey dicey out. And All right. So not as shiny now, so we get a better picture of it. The box is a little smushed, but you know what? That's okay. Not a big deal. Um, I'm not the type of guy that gets all bent out of shape if the box is not in, mint condition. There's no hole in it, so I can get in there and bend it back out. And then on the back, it's a 3 out of 10 complexity. Solitaire playability is 7 out of 10, so we got that going for us. Let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, we get a nice big player aid card with our terrain effects chart, our combat modifiers, facing diagram, and then our turn track. On the other side, we've got reading the unit. This is what an armored unit looks like. This is what the infantry unit looks like, and then point values. I guess that's if you want to make your own scenario, I guess, but I'll read it up in the rules. Paradise, and then the game manual. Not big. It's 10 pages, not counting the front and back cover. So again, decent sized text. Yeah. So it's actual rules pages count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages total. Then there's 1, 2, 3 pages of scenarios. So there you go. The inside cover is your table of contents. The back inside cover is an ad for East Front. Then you got one counter sheet of, again, absolutely gargantuan counters. Again, as with everything I've received so far from Lock and Load, they are pre-cornered, pre-rounded, already rounded. So let's see, the weapons, you've got Shermans, Wolverines, Priests, Infantry, AT, guns, Pershings, Howitzers, M8s, and Armored Infantry for the Americans. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 21, 23 counters for the Americans. Then the Germans have Panther, Stukas, supply trucks, Panzer IVs, lots of Panzer IVs, Tigers, King Tigers, Vespas, some more Panthers, a couple of infantry, a couple of armored infantry, and AT guns, for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 28 different counters for the Germans. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12 counters that are just informational counters. So yeah, nice. And then it's got 2, I believe, 11 by 17. That's 1, 22, 24. Yeah, just over 11 by just over 14. So 2 of those. Um, and it looks like you don't you're not matching them up. So everything is played on just a single size sheet there. So I mean, I guess you could line them up. Maybe. No. Well, they are not geomorphic. So you can't necessarily line them up. So, but that's okay. It's a small footprint game. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot to it. That should be fun. Yeah, should be fun. So good stuff. Definitely going to be excited to get this up on the table also. But again, need to get the U.S. Civil War, get a couple of that done out of the way. So need to find a place for this to live. I'll put it down here. Well, let's do this. That way this entire row is lock and load tactical. And to be perfectly honest, I'm going to have a lot more lock and load tactical coming in once I get Fire and Fury. Hopefully that's going to be hitting the shores soon. Money's been collected, so hopefully we'll be getting it here soon. Hi Charles, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, Reese, those do look like fun little maps. Oh, and McMurray is here, sir.
Sorry about that. Work stuff on the day off. Gotta love it, right?
Hey, I understand. Not a problem. Just went through what I got. I'll do a recap. But Jeff, he sent me, as we already knew, he was sending me the Heroes of the Nam companion spiral bound book and the Tanks vs. Tanks or Tanks on Tank or whatever the hell it's called. Tank on Tank West Front. But he slid in a surprise for me. He sent me Multiman Publishing's Warriors of Japan.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Yeah.
Jackpot.
So that should be good. Definitely gonna look through that and give it a read through. I don't know if that's going to be the next thing that hits the table. We'll have to see. Right now, like I keep saying, is I'm still figuring out the U.S. Civil War game.
Yeah, man, that's not an easy one, to be honest with you.
Hey, I look at it this way: if I can tackle this sucker and make some sense out of it, I'm well on my way to having and not have a heart attack. I'm well on my way to having some decent times with some hex and counter games.
That's very true. You are. Yeah, you just chose a hell of a way to start out.
Yeah. Well, and as you've seen, I've got a good start on my hex and counter games right here.
Accurate.
So I've got 2.5 rows of nothing but lock and load.
I'm about to say, even better, at least half of those are made after you were born, which puts you ahead of me.
Oh, yeah.
Probably 2/3 of the hex and counter games I own were made before I was born, because I have a problem with old Avalon Hill games and shit.
And I have quite a bit of GMT games going here as well.
That is very true.
I got Salerno 43, Normandy 44, the Hunters, and Command and Colors Ancients.
Yep.
So yeah. What have you been up to gaming wise?
I'm still plowing my way through Stalingrad Pocket 2 on the campaign game. It is a bit of a grind, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of rough, but such is life, man. You gotta do it, right?
Right, right.
So we're making it happen. It's just I think the Soviets are going to get to a point here where we just throw caution to the wind and say, screw it, we're going ham. And yeah, I've got a Soviet. So it's weird because the Axis have the German bad guys have essentially two, if not like 2.5 barrage phases.
Yeah.
Which means and the way barrages work in this particular SCS game is there's essentially a CRT for barrages. So you stack barrage points, barrage strength, and then you roll on a CRT. So if you stack them enough, you can stand a good chance of DGing, if not knocking a step off an entire stack, if, maybe 2 times a turn.
Yeah.
Which then makes it really hard for the Soviets to attack, because on the flip side, the Soviets have 1 barrage phase, and all of their artillery is concentrated in artillery brigades, which aren't rare, but they're not as easy to kind of mince together and get. If you want to spread them out to maximize, the bands on the CRT, it's a whole lot easier if you have a bunch of 3 and 4 strength units as opposed to only 7 and 18s. So it really allows the Germans, between that and the multiple phases, to maximize the impact of their artillery, where the Soviets are kind of, we'll get it figured out someday. But whatever. It's not a big bad thing. It's just one of those things.
Very cool. So I have decided, after this past weekend, my brother and I and our buddy Eric tested out jet fighters.
Yeah.
Fistful of Lead starfighters with Vietnam era aircraft. And I've decided that I'm going to be doing a lot of work with Jay, my brother Jay, getting Kanji City going.
Yes.
And that's going to take a lot of big printer printing.
Correct.
It is. The same as, filling out my Tantive 4 corridors.
Yep.
So I'm actually going to set Tantive 4 aside for March to Victory.
What?
And because I'm going to be using my little printer, my resin printer, to print out little city blocks at probably 1 to 2 millimeter scale to make a Saigon. So my airplanes can go downtown, as it were.
You're going to build up the entirety of Saigon?
Not the entirety of Saigon.
Did
that?
The North Vietnamese Air Force make it to Saigon? I thought that was
Hanoi. Sorry, Hanoi.
Okay, I was about to say I was under the impression that most of the air war in Vietnam was over Hanoi. Okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
My mistake. Yeah.
No, you're good.
Leave it to the guy who loves history and has a degree in geography to fuck that up.
No, it's all good.
Hanoi.
There you go. Okay.
The first game through, mechanics wise, yeah, and I knew Reese would be down for that.
Yeah, he loves the Vietnam War. You gotta use bigger figures, so that's the issue for Reese.
Well, I can't use 54 millimeter airplanes because those sons of bitches would be
awesome.
I
would
need
on a football field, much less a gym floor.
Yeah, I would need the entirety of the Legion Hall to run that game. It would be cool as ass, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have the room for it.
that's what that's what made me press pause real quick on 1/600 naval. Was even with destroyers it would be, or 1/700, even with destroyers it would take such a huge
Yeah,
chunk of the march to victory hall
yeah,
that, as cool as it would be, and I would love to do it, that'd be real rough. Um,
yep. So,
like
but yeah, you would have to have at least that entire back wall.
yeah. Well, the thought was that, or like the mezzanine, but then where the hell they can do the silent auction, and that's the one of the coolest parts of everything.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, the silent auction needs to be up there for crowd control.
It does. It absolutely
Yeah.
does. Not to mention the fact that, dude, ultimately the lighting up there wouldn't support a game, anyways.
Right.
But
Right. So.
um, no, someday. That's why also I've switched to pre-dreadnoughts. That way I can limit the ranges, because ideal engagement range was 6,000 yards. So
Right. So mechanically, the first game was
yes,
just to get mechanics out. There. At first, I was toying with the idea of making all missile fire require a lock to shoot, but to be honest, we only got one lock the entire game, so everything was done with guns.
what was that? Were you doing that as a skill check or skill test?
What's that?
Were you doing that as a skill test?
Right, right. So what it was is because you have two actions, but one action has to be movement. So
Okay.
what we're doing is the first turn you roll for your lock, and then you the second turn, if you've got the lock, you can fire the missile.
Okay.
So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back off, and you can still roll to lock, and that'll give you a +1 on your hit. But
Okay.
to fire the missile, you don't have to run the lock. You don't have to do the lock first.
All right.
So, also, there was a lot. It was very deadly, very deadly.
That makes sense. Like air combat is deadly.
Right, but it was like too deadly. Like the airplanes were evaporating, because the F8 with its four 20 millimeter autocannons.
Mhm.
If you hit with all four, you're rolling 1d10 per.
Mhm.
The 20 millimeter cannons in the F4s, you're rolling 2d10s on a hit.
Mhm.
So and a lot of nines and tens were going up. So a lot of planes were just poof. So what we're going to do instead? Oh, and then every time something got shot at and got a hit, they they were getting shocked out of existence, basically.
Yeah.
Um, if they didn't go away because they became, you know 25 tons of glitter, and an explosive ball of fire and shrapnel, they scampered off real quick because they outshocked, basically. So what we're gonna do is on a nine basically all the airplanes are gonna get godlike. So a 10 will be 2 damage. Everything else, a 6, 7, 8, 9 will be 1 damage, and then everything else a will be shock. So, um, uh, the Gatling, Reese, the Gatling guns were the F4 has a single 20 millimeter rotary cannon, so it's when you're rolling a single die to hit, and its damage is 2d10. I might bump that to 3d10 because of the speed that which it fires, and then just the regular 20 millimeter autocannon is a single shot per gun for 1d10 of damage. So, but aside from that, the mechanics worked well. So we're gonna do some more playtesting, as I said in my video series on how to run a convention game and be prepared for a convention game. Is you got to play test your scenarios. You got to play test. So we're gonna make some changes and see if those work, and we'll go from there. Now, Reese, I'll let you know that you are flying one of the F8 Crusaders. Right here, you can see it. Let me embiggen myself here. Right here, we got in the F1 or the F8H Crusader, Lieutenant Reese Turkey Crawford. There you go. He and his wingman, Lieutenant Robert Dusty Rhodes, ended up taking out 5 MiGs, 4 MiG-21s and a MiG-19. So that's cool. He designed the fuel tanks. My uncle flew them off of Oriskany and Ticonderoga, 2 tours with the VF-11 Sundowners. So definitely an aircraft after my own heart. So there you go, buddy. But yeah, it was a good time. We had some fun. Definitely some changes that need to be made, but is what it is, right?
That's how playtesting works, dog.
Exactly. Like I said, got to play test.
Especially, I'm about to say, it's one thing to play test a scenario. It's something entirely different to play test new mechanics. That just sucks, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. But hey, to put out a good product, that's what you have to do, right?
It is.
So, Hissy Cat, if you're still watching, I'm making some changes on the file on my the rules that I'm going to be sending to you. I thought I had made these changes, and my Mac is supposed to autosave stuff. But apparently it didn't.
I think the most important message to pass on to Hissy Cat is what's new, Hissy Cat?
Whoa!
Dude, that song, I had that song out of my head, and then you had to bring it back up, and oh my God. It's been driving me insane. The haunting melodies of Tom Jones, dog.
The dulcet, mellifluous tones.
Dog, I didn't realize he's Welsh. Jones. He doesn't
What's
sound
that?
Welsh. He's Welsh.
No, he doesn't.
It doesn't sound
Thank God. Yeah. Thank God he sings better than he speaks.
Well, I mean,
because
anyways.
At one point in time, somebody explained to me, I shouldn't say explained to me, but somebody described to me that Welsh is like taking a fistful of gravel and talking and putting it in your mouth and talking around it.
But you can't use vowels.
Right.
Yeah. No, I got a good buddy who I used to game with a lot here in St. Louis. Again, unfortunately, that gaming group kind of being adults found other stuff that they had to do that filled their time during COVID. And I haven't been able to get everybody back together too effectively. But he is straight up Welsh, like born and raised in Cardiff. Like he's as Welsh as they come.
Right.
He's from Wales enough that he gets hunted by the Faroe Islanders.
There you
go. Jesus Christ, dude! When he like lapses into full Welsh, it's one of those like, it's like trying to understand somebody from like Kennett, Missouri, which is not a thing. Like you can try. By all means, you can try. God bless you. You can try, but that ain't gonna happen. That's not a Understanding
Not a
some
thing.
folks is not a thing. Yeah.
Chris Long's in the house.
Hey, what up, Chris? How's it going, buddy? Chris, man, I've been trying to find late pledges or anything for Empires of Steel or Broadside Empires of Steel, whatever it is. I'm coming up with butkus. But
Yeah, because that's right up your alley.
Yeah. It's again, so that's that true age of dreadnoughts, right? Like that's, you got all the 15-inch guns, you got all the cool stuff, but you don't have to worry. And I understand that you love the air war, man, but aircraft ruin surface naval engagements.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that yeah, absolutely. World War One. The issue is World War One is nowhere near as covered in terms of naval engagements as World War Two, which is a real shame because, especially given that there was only one theater of World War One, you have so much more interesting. Like, great. There's only you can count the major, massive dreadnought engagements on a couple of hands, or on a hand or so. But
yeah, but there's a lot of cruiser and destroyer action.
There's lots of that, and there's lots of what ifs. Like the High Seas Fleet actively raided the west coast or the east coast of the British Isles, trying to get the Grand Fleet to send out part and parcel.
Right.
And the Grand Fleet usually just entirely sailed, so the Germans ran home. But it's really interesting. That would be a super cool war game, like what if the German raiding forces actually got caught up? Like what if Braunschweig and the last two German battle cruisers after Jutland actually managed to get a British battle cruiser squadron into combat. But anyways, so I've been looking for that, Chris, because I don't really want to buy. I really like to do a late pledge. Like I want to just hand them an amount of money and have all them files.
Right.
Which is a little sad. Like I have Von der Tan and Queen Mary, because those two are free on their Thingiverse page. And there's a Wargaming 3D file for Jutland battleships, but it's like 8 classes for $50, which is one of those like that's cool, but it's not even everything that was at Jutland, man. Like, come on now.
Right.
But especially with World War II, I really like doing it at that 1/6000, because you need to, in order to get that 1 foot is a mile scale, right?
Right, exactly. Because you're flinging 16-inch shells 10, 15, 20 miles downrange.
I was about to say, and more importantly, you have the fire control to actually start getting hits at, if you're Warspite, like 26,000 yards, right?
Right.
But that's rough, luckily, in World War One, and then also even more so in the pre-dreadnought era, despite the fact that you had guns that still fling shells that far, especially in the pre-dreadnought era. Like your fire control is still the Mark I human eyeball. So
yeah,
good luck. That's why even at Manila, where you're still shooting at each other with 8-inch guns, you're shooting 3 miles. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But it was World War One, and from basically 1895 to about the end of World War One, you're still in knife fighting range for most battles.
Oh yeah, you're well within World War II destroyer gunfight range.
Yeah,
absolutely, 110%. Which is why this Old Glory USS Texas going to see a lot of loving. I printed out the. I think you already saw this, but I printed out the ironclad ram from War of the Worlds.
Yeah,
with Thunderchild.
Yeah,
that thing just looks vicious because it's basically just 2 great big 9-inch guns on the front of a tugboat. But
there you go. That'll get the job done.
It's not a tugboat, but you get my point. It's an ironclad ram. It's not not even a pre-dreadnought. But So I'm sitting on those two, and Old Glory does sell a good variety of 1/6000 or 1/600 pre-dreadnoughts, and at that range, I figure it'd be, do the standard double ground scale, which is
Yeah.
about the acceptable maximum for me. And then you'll be at 1/1200 in there if you've got, if you're wanting to engage out to 3,000 yards, 4,000 yards, it's not too absurd. It's going to be a big table, but
Oh yeah.
cool at least. Yeah. And if all else fails, you can do the same thing down to with 1/1200, because I know there's lots of 1/1200 and 1/1000. I think Houston makes a full line of like Spanish American War, so we got a bunch of those as well. I think actually I've got Don Infante Pelayo somewhere around here, and then I got a bunch of just random U.S. ships that are all painted up and ready to rock for that. But I think they're 1/1200 or 1/1000. So plus Spanish American War doesn't do a whole lot for me, because it's kind of like it's like a teenager
practice.
Yeah, it's like a teenager beating up like
third grader.
No, like an invalid, like a guy with Alzheimer's.
Right.
You got the Spanish Navy that's struggling to stay even close to relevant, but their one functioning pre-dreadnought battleship they kept in Spain, because their other functioning pre-dreadnought battleship, they decided they didn't want the guns that were going to be built onto it, so it's just sitting there with no guns. So you wind up with like protected cruisers and goofy shit in Manila, just getting the shit smashed out of them by arguably one of the most proficient and well-designed armored cruisers on the planet at the time, the Olympia, just rolling in and going, ha 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 ha. Aw.
Right.
That's cool. We're going to quite literally give you guys breathing room so that you can get people off your boats before we completely just wreck them. Steaming back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Terrible displays of gunnery all around with like 3% accuracy on the U.S. side, but that's not too bad when you compare it to like the less than 1% on the Spanish side.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. We're getting far off into the weeds and away from Jeff's game unboxings, but
no, that's fine. This is kind of a bonus show for folks tonight.
That's fair. I did get since we're talking about naval stuff and hex and counter stuff that we recently got off of Board Game Geek, I did get River Plate by Decision Games. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Nice.
Yep. Nice. So that's River crossed and Denmark Strait. Yeah.
Fingers crossed that's on my hey, can you give me that for Christmas list?
Yep. I don't know what the hell this ship going up like the Titanic is, but it's a cool picture. Like that's pretty.
Oh yeah, it's artistic license. We'll go with that.
It's certainly not. It's confusing because that's a King George III class in the front, the World War II era KG3 class, because you can see the quad turret and the double turret, which would make you think that's Prince of Wales, but that's not how Hood happened. Like
no.
There's far too much, and there's a big old like column of smoke, but that's far too much of the hood intact over the seabed. But anyways, artistic license, cool blowing up of the hood. So that's got River Plate and Denmark Strait. So you got, Ajax, Achilles, and Exeter versus the Graf Spee over here, and then Prince of Wales and Hood versus Prinz Eugen and Bismarck on the other side for those two, and then. The other one, since we're talking about World War I stuff, is oddly enough very similar to Graf Spee in World War II. This is Graf Spee in World War I, but this is like the dude that's the ship. But in terms of leaving Germany before the start of the war and then never making it home, Coronel is the Far East, the German, essentially Pacific Fleet. I think it was the Far East Squadron, but wrecking some British lighter ships on the west coast of South America, and then trying to raid the coaling station at the Falkland Islands and getting smashed up pretty good. But that's also where the original Gneisenau and Scharnhorst fought and all that stuff. So
very cool.
That should be pretty cool. I don't know what that's supposed to emulate. That's not quite as easy as as easy as Denmark Strait is to identify, mainly because each of these engagements have more than 4 ships aside, as opposed to each of these engagements having 4 ships each. But those are part of Decision Games' Folio series using the Dreadnoughts and Battle Wagons system, which I think these are the only 2 games that they ever did in that system, which makes me really, really sad.
Yeah. So that and that could be a topic that we dive into a little deeper on a different show. But I think that's one thing that miniatures gamers tend to feel like they are more, what's what I'm looking for? I don't want to say superior, but they've got the idea that they are more what's the word I'm looking for?
Let's go with scenario creative, maybe.
Yeah, because as a miniatures gamer, I get the rules. I can ex- extrapolate out. If I only get enough rules to say have the British fleet and the German fleet, I could probably extrapolate with my own mental acuity, figure out basic American and Japanese stuff,
Correct.
and just have the models and call it good. Really can't do that with a board game because where are you going to get, how are you going to come up with the tokens? How are you going to get the counters?
Yeah, like it depends on what you're
It's,
doing. Like that's kind of the nice thing about why I like say flying colors,
yeah,
right? Because the tokens that you have are there, right? Like you don't, if you want to play flying colors and you want to play a simulation of, well, what if the the Toulon inshore squadron got engaged by the ships that you can document were at Toulon on this date, then that's the nice thing about that is you can take those ship counters for each side and just use them. That's not necessarily so much the case in stuff in a lot of hex and counter games, though. Like that's kind of the beauty of hex and counter games like ASL is that you have the basic building blocks, right? But and I see the value in both because I don't always like. Sometimes it's nice, like here. There's no way I'm not playing a miniatures game that will simulate something this large as Stalingrad Pocket, but I'm also not going to do the research to figure out every unit that was present in essentially the central area of Army Group South in 1942. That's not a thing. Nope.
yeah.
I'm not writing a doctoral thesis. I'm happy this is here. Outstanding. But I certainly see where the feeling of adaptability with miniatures, not to mention the fact that most miniature gamers don't necessarily play pre-written scenarios very much, right? Like most miniature gamers, whether we like it or not, get their start playing 40K, and there's
Right.
not pre-written scenarios for 40K. There's like tournament games that you can look up and play, right? Like there's tournament scenarios.
Scenarios.
Yeah, but those are just, it's essentially you're playing on a different football field, right?
Right. Yeah,
Like,
it's a different field with maybe different objectives, but you're going after the same objective. Both sides are, you're going after the same MacGuffin.
exactly. It's just silly as fuck.
Right.
But yeah, so I obviously see the value in both, and I play the Jesus out of both almost as much as I can, given that I'm playing Stalingrad Pocket right now. But it's certainly, I can see both sides, for lack of a better lack of a better way to put it. And I'm like,
Right.
well, I'm about to pull a sneaky on these Romanians here because I'm tired of the Soviets not doing anything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull a sneaky. So I mean, I've been just smashing the Soviet formations up against the Axis like you're supposed to, but I'm tired of doing that, and it's really pissing me off now. So I'm taking this Romanian. Whatchamacallit, this Romanian. I'm cutting them off. They're not going to be in supply anymore. I just captured 2 German, like, mobile supply points. Sorry, Jeffy. But so that should open up a sizable chunk of the line once these Romanians go out of supply, unless unless the Axis want to throw something random in there. It should be a pretty big smack to them. Also, those supply points being captured will make it such that the Axis can't use them once I start encircling their Axis troops over here on the side, which is going to happen as soon as humanly possible because I'm getting tired of this game not getting very far. Okay. Anyways, sorry.
That's okay. So just before we sign off, because we've been going almost an hour. Before we sign off, I wanted to let everybody know it's not a reminder because I hadn't told you this previously, but it is a point of interest and maybe a reminder later. This week's show is going to be on Thursday. So, and the reason for that is my niece and nephew's Christmas concerts are Tuesday and Wednesday. And if I show up for Joey's concert on Tuesday and I don't show up for Caroline's concert on Wednesday, I'll be a bad uncle. So we're postponing the show until Thursday. Unfortunately, that means we don't have McMurray with us.
Yeah, Chris basically said I'm going to try and catfish McMurray onto the show today so that then I don't feel bad about telling him to kick rocks on Wednesday.
Hey, but anybody. Hopefully Jeff will be there. Hopefully Todd will be there. Might bring Hissy Cat back on. I think that went well.
Yeah.
And then as for a topic as to what to talk about, no idea.
Yeah, that happens, man.
But definitely it'll probably be board game related with Jeff there. And I'm doing a lot of board game stuff. I'm not leaving my miniatures. Trust me, I'm not leaving my miniatures. I'm still a miniatures guy. Richard, it's going to be Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. So it's the same bat time, except one day later. But like I said, we'll probably have something, talk about something board game related, or who the hell knows what we're going to talk about. We'll just start.
It's always a toss up.
Yeah, it like sometimes it is. So, is Hex Encounter really called board games? Well, yeah, they're on a board. Of course, they're a board game. Not all board games are Hex Encounter games, but all Hex Encounter games are board games by the very definition.
Kind of like not all miniature war gamers are awesome, but Warmutt is a miniature war gamer.
Right. I like how you played that.
Right?
No.
Yeah, they're board games.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And let's be clear. Warmutt plays a board game.
He does.
It's not a Hex Encounter game because there's no hexes and the counters are 3-dimensional. So, there you go.
Yeah, he absolutely does. He just doesn't like admitting it.
No. So, all right, guys. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up today. Thanks for jumping on. You know, it was kind of a spur of the moment. I got the box from Jeffy today and said, you know what, I want to kind of show off what I got on the channel and what's in the boxes, but I don't want to record and then have to wait for hours on end to hit the channel because my my internet is blows goats.
Yeah,
Let's be
you've been
honest.
having problems with that, man.
Yeah, I spend way too much for what little I get.
Yeah, that'll happen.
I think sometime this week I'm going to be heading over to uh, another company and saying, "Hey, what can you do for me?"
That's absolutely understandable.
Alrighty, guys. Thanks for popping in. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard U.S. time. We will be here. Sans McMurray,
Yeah, sorry guys.
tier, but
It
he's got to
happens.
go out and serve and protect, and hopefully not freeze his nuts off.
That's inevitable at this point in the year.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, take care, and we shall see you on the flip side.